What's up, you guys? Matt Jablonski here with the Point of Change. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope you guys are having a good Sunday evening. Hopefully, you've had a good Sunday, got some football watching in, got some church in, whatever you're into. I hope you got into it today. So, tonight, as per usual on Sunday evenings, I like to bring a guest on, somebody to share their story of addiction and recovery, and tonight is no different. Tonight, we are joined by my own Brandi Conklin. She's been a follower of the Point of Change for a long time. She's actually a supporter of the page. And tonight she's going to share her story of addiction and recovery for us. I'm just getting some shares out there into groups. So you guys go ahead and take a minute and share this page or share this video out. If you're new here, make sure you like the page and follow the page. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you come over and check out the page on Facebook too, facebook.com/thepointofchange. We do daily live videos at 10 a.m. Central every single day with memes, written posts. My live stream's always a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a good recovery live stream, come on by at 10 a.m. Central in the morning. I also make random lives and random videos and stuff too. Let's see, where else should I share this to? Let's go right there. Looks like a good one. Get that shared. How's everybody doing tonight? Let me check the comments. I'm sorry, I'm so rude. Let me get over here. Dana Moore, how are you? Donna, good to see you. Patrice Wasp, good evening. Michael McNeil, how you doing? Cheryl Black, good to have you here. Emma Guthrie, good evening, family. Good evening, Emma. Good to have you here. Patrice, last update tonight. Grandma has pneumonia and congestive heart failure. Tested positive for COVID. She is on steroids and admitted to the hospital. Oh, wow. I am so sorry to hear that, Patrice. Definitely, guys, throw up some hearts and some care, guys, for Patrice. Let her know we're thinking about her. Send up some prayers in the real world as well for everything she's going through with her grandma there. So sorry to hear that, Patrice. Hopefully everything goes the best it can. Thomas Heath, how are we doing, brother? Good to see you. Windy, Cindy, Bo, Windy is here. How you doing, Windy, Cindy? Thank you for being here. Chris Rubino, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Melissa Mackey, Ayo, hey, Jax is here. Brian O'Brien, how you doing? Good to see you, brother. Tammy Pouliot, wonderful to have you here. Oh, yeah, Michael McNeil, 11 p.m. there. Oh, yeah, way past your bedtime, young man. Gavin Merritt, how you doing, guys? All right, guys. Stephanie Titus, thank you for joining me, guys. Make sure you hit that share button, hit that like and love button, send up some hearts and some likes and some loves. Send me out into any addiction groups you may be a part of or onto your own page if you wish. Tonight's going to be an awesome, awesome interview. I'm excited for it. Let's see. Adam and Jess, my brother is struggling on the fence of going to rehab. Please pray for him. Definitely, Adam and Jess. Let me see if I could find that comment over here. Put that up there, guys. If we could throw up some care, guys, and some hearts. And send some prayers up, of course, in the real world for Adam and Jess and everything that's going on there with his brother struggling on that fence, man. He'll get through it. There, oh no, now I messed up and clicked a different one. There we go. Noah Gill, how you doing, brother? Dana Moore with 100 stars and Gavin Merritt with 50 stars. Thank you guys so much for the stars. I appreciate that. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and bring my guest on for tonight. So if you wouldn't mind, throw up every heart in the world and help me welcome Brandi Conklin. Woo! What's up, Brandi?
Loving life today.
Good. That's a good thing. Gotta love that smile.
Yeah. It's a lot better than what it looked like a couple months back. So
yeah, not that long ago you got the new chompers. How are you adjusting to having dentures?
I don't think I'm gonna have any issues. I'm not sore at all, other than when it was healing, because like when they removed the stitches, it took a little longer for my gums to heal, probably because I'm a smoker.
Yeah.
And so they advised me to go back in, and because the denturist, because like in Canada, it's a denturist and then there's a dentist. So I had two offices that I had to go to. But it's all figured out, and now it's just on the healing end and going in for those liner fittings. So and if he said if I have pain, let him know, but so far I haven't really had pain. So
awesome. That explains it, because you had mentioned, I seen you in the comments, you had said denturist, and I was like, that's a one way to say it. I didn't realize that a denturist was a real thing.
Yeah, well, in Canada, like you're either like, yeah, the dentist doesn't do the dentures here in Canada. It's actually someone that specializes and does the dentures.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, why don't you go ahead and just, give us the basic info of where you're from and stuff like that, and we'll get started.
Well, I'm from Wetaskiwin, Alberta, Canada. I grew up around small cities around Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, within half an hour from the big city. I'd say my childhood wasn't that traumatic. Like my parents were functioning alcoholics, but
Okay.
they never fought until I got into my teens, but it was just kind of bickering and not chaotic, other than they would drink after supper time.
Oh,
But
okay. So managing an alcohol
they
addiction, but
own their own home. They own their own car. Like my dad had employment with an employer for well, he ended up leaving them after 25, 30 years. So
oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah.
But so otherwise it was
But
alcohol was involved, but it was not a toxic environment.
no, not until later, after I was with the partner and I was an adult, there was a situation where my dad got really hurt. But I was sexually abused by a firefighter as a teenager. I did tell my parents. We went to the police station, but I was turned away. They protected him. So I think that's where my start of not really trusting the police, because I was telling the truth and they didn't. So I did drink kind of once in a while, but honestly, I never really liked getting sick, the morning sickness. So that kind of stopped me from being a drinker. I was more of a social drinker. Like I would be the one that had the same drink 4 hours later.
Oh, okay.
Like one drink would last me all night long, and or I'd be drinking water.
Okay.
But I got into smoking weed and then I did also meet my two younger children that I have today. I used to date their dad when we were teenagers.
Oh, okay.
And I got pregnant at 13, 14 years old, but I lost the baby. And my family basically sold their house, and then we moved away. They bought into a towing company with my uncle. So I moved on, left him, had another relationship, dated a man who is my first daughter's dad in high school. And I had her exactly on my birthday, my 20th birthday.
Wow. Well, that's kind of nice.
We kind of partied a little bit here and there. I do remember seeing cocaine at parties, but I never really chose to dabble in it at that time of my life. And then things didn't kind of fell out with my older daughter's father, but it wasn't toxic. It just we went different ways. Yeah. Then I met a man who also worked kind of my parents met him because he used to be the mechanic who looked after my parents' tow trucks.
Okay.
Now he is a trucker and a mechanic at the time, but very sexist.
Oh.
Would always want to try to hit on my friends and stuff. And
Not good.
he was kind of overly aggressive with children, where the calls from children's services started getting called in.
Oh. Rightfully so.
Yeah. the only time I got in trouble then is they were coming actually to speak to me on Dale's behavior with the children. And I basically, this is just leading up to before I left him. And I had smoked a joint back then years ago. That's like a big no-no.
Yeah.
So they made me go to a drug counselor back then, talking to him, and he didn't even feel I had an addiction.
Okay.
So like I saw him like three sittings or whatever, and he's like, no, she's just a casual smoker, because that's what it was.
Okay.
But one morning I woke up to Dale running into our room, which is my other children's dad, because I have 2 teenagers, and then he was the stepdad of my daughter. And he came running in and he's like, I just punched your daughter.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of went into shock. I didn't know how to respond, but obviously I didn't respond in the proper manner, because it ended up that my daughter was pulled from my home. Then I, after the breakup of that, I moved on with the gentleman who I said that I used to date as a teenager. He came back into my life. Well, I soon caught on that he was an alcoholic. Okay. This is before I knew that he had dabbled into hard drugs. He became very, 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 like, I almost died. He's broken my denture, like, because I had dentures before. I had a top denture plate, and I was in the process to get the bottoms, and I left my husband, so I had no more coverage.
Okay.
So during my addiction, I still had the top plate, but the bottoms were a mess.
Okay. Wow. So you definitely had some
he
rough
also
runs.
He punched me. Yeah, I started going from one bad to another. But anyways, he hurt me bad really one night, and during the day, like, I bet you I stayed up for 3 days, and this is not on drugs. I wasn't using anything then, because we were just at a new place, didn't know anybody yet. At that point I did dabble here and there, but it wasn't a full-time thing. I waited for him to pass out because I was too scared to call. I grabbed my son and my other 2 children who were visiting that night, and we walked about 1.5 blocks. Well, I had broken ribs, broken tailbone. Oh. My face looked like a pumpkin. I was strangled, smothered, raped with a frickin' dildo. But I went to a house that had kid toys, and I said, I need to go there. And their kid actually came to the door, and I could see the parent at the top of the stairs when looking in through the screen door, and I just said, I need help. I need the police. And the police came. I was taken to the hospital. I had over 100 x-rays done, and they had arrested him because they had to get a warrant because it wasn't our place. We were at his brother's house, and he was working on the rigs, so he wasn't there.
Wow.
But he was still passed out naked in the bed, and they arrested him at gunpoint, and he pled guilty and went to jail. And I felt, well, he pled guilty. He didn't mean it. I fought even to get my visits with him in jail, and he was in jail for assaulting me.
Wow.
I went to the visits with our son at the time, and he was also I missed a part. He was also charged with assault on our infant son because he grabbed him out of the playpen and swung him around the room, threatening to smash him against a wall unless I told him I cheated on him, which never happened.
Wow.
He went to jail for a couple of years, and then I was doing good. I got my own place. I was going to like victim counseling, and then I started going to upgrade so I could upgrade my high school to think about something to do with psychology because it really interests me. And then he got back out, and well, I ended up back with him, and we ended up having our other daughter, but like he was using and drinking, and during my pregnancy, I never used. I've been strangled while I was pregnant. That's not even, this is just the beginning. Oh my God. He had us, because he has a family member who has dual citizen in Mexico.
Okay.
And he's not a good guy. But anyways, my children's father got himself in trouble with his cousin. So we had to leave there, and he basically forced me to panhandle with an infant in my arm to get gas for the car and his booze and drugs. And we traveled all the way from Lloydminster, Saskatchewan side, because Lloydminster is a city that's half in Alberta and half in Saskatchewan. So, but we traveled all the way through Alberta and all over freaking BC, where eventually we met up with some of his family members that I also know, because like I knew him in the past, but they helped me track down a number for women fleeing domestic abuse. And I got myself into a transition house, is what it's called. I had to meet them in a spot with my children. They had to make sure that like I wasn't followed to the house. Like they don't allow men there at all. It's just women and children, or just women that have left. Had to go to court, and they're like, we need to serve him. I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna serve him. He's all over the place, and the only thing I could think of is get him through his email. So my lawyer had to get some kind of thing passed through the judge to be able to serve him through his email, and he responded. So I was able to get an emergency supervision order. I got onto my feet and ended up staying out in the coast of BC, but I didn't really work on all the things that I just went through. And for a little bit, he also came back there, came back to my place there. And it ended up bad, went back into a treatment center. But this time he went back to jail in BC. I had to tell the cops, I'm like, there was a file in Alberta. He had 2 years plus a day in federal prison in Alberta, because they don't actually have records of different provinces.
Oh, wow.
So they actually, with that, I think he got another 6 months, because I left before it got too bad, but he destroyed my place. Like, I honestly think I think he went into psychosis because he did stuff that I don't think you do it to your worst enemy. Like, literally, he went to the washroom, never flushed the toilet, and when I came home, I had a broken glass table. I had liquor all over. I had cigarette butts all over. I had crack pipes all over at that time. And from then, I never got back with him. He left. He actually ended up with a friend of mine that I know, and I told her I don't think you should be with him. He's toxic. But whatever, that's their story. But then I met another fellow who I started dating. My children were calling him daddy. We were together for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. Oh, maybe it was over. Yeah, it was over 2 years. But his addiction was methamphetamine. And that's when I switched to meth. I didn't get all tweaky, though. I don't know why. It made me focus. I would color.
Mm-hmm.
You'd find me sitting in my room coloring and focusing and not getting into trouble. I did my mom thing. Until the very end, my house became the trap house. I let all the homeless people in there because I didn't want to see them on the street. Come hang out at my house. So like I even found a flap of heroin under my baby's high chair. Wow. I'm so glad I found it and she didn't, because like I could have been in jail for like forever because of that. And like I would have probably, I don't know how if my baby died from that. Like I can't believe everything. But at the very end, we were drug dealing. It was mostly me. I was the one that, we can make money. We can get a car. I'm tired of being on welfare, not getting anywhere. Like, I get enough to pay my rent, but $100 to decide if I buy food, diapers, and a power bill. Like, it lasted about 5 days. My children got apprehended. And then 2 days later, the drug dealers murdered my boyfriend because in the midst of all this, on one of the meets, I caught a camera flash. So I knew if I got to that meet, the cops are going to be at the other end. So I never went. I went back home. I tore the license plate off the car, and I phoned the boss, and I said, come get your piece of shit car. I'm done. I just want my kids. I ended up on the streets because they ended up murdering my boyfriend. The cops, I think, are involved. They wouldn't take the evidence. I know he was murdered. They hung him somewhere else, and then they got me out of the house and hung him as I got jumped by 4 other girls.
Wow.
I was chased between Mission, BC, Abbotsford, Chilliwack, back to Abbotsford, back to Mission. They would do the drive and honk to point me out. Okay. Like, that's fucking scary when that shit starts happening. But anyways, I ended up in between shelters and on the street and still kind of using, but I knew I needed help. Before I actually found treatment, I went to Abbotsford Hospital. I sat there for hours because there was a long waiting line in emergency. And all I wanted is, I need help. I need detox. I need to get treatment, whatever. How do I do it? And when they called my name and the doctor started walking me towards a different area, because they're not getting a regular doctor, they're getting a psychologist doctor because they know something's up with me. I was high when I went in there. There's a certain type of people that were sitting near the room who I don't know. Maybe I was in psychosis, but I had drug dealers after me. I was scared. So I thought, these people, I don't trust the situation. So I'm like, I'll come back. Well, I got surrounded by like 5 security guards that are in the hospital. And I started kicking and stuff. I ended up breaking one of their computers. But anyways, they put me in the psych ward for 5 days. They diagnosed me bipolar, and because bipolar and depression and all that stuff, the only way they'd release me out was under my children's great aunt, who is not related to me, but is related to my children's father, because she lived in the same town. So she said, yes, she can come back here. But when I got there, the people in the neighborhood all knew what was going on. And they're like, we don't trust her. We know people are after her. We don't want her here.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up back on the street and chased out. I eventually made my way to a soup kitchen and ate breakfast there because it was Sunday. They did like a church service for the homeless, and then you ate. And I went outside after eating, ready to break down again. And that's basically what happened. There were some girls that were sitting on a ledge and they were smoking, and I'm like, is there any way I could buy a smoke? I had like 50 cents. Please, I just really need a smoke. And I think they sensed, this girl needs a smoke. Let's give her a smoke. And I just broke down. Told them basically everything that I'd been through. Not like my whole story, just that losing my kids, my boyfriend dying, on the streets, people after me. And they're like, you know what? We're volunteers. We're actually women in recovery from a treatment center, and we have to volunteer here. I think you should come back with us. And I'm like, I'm so in. I had to wait till they finished up, so I hung around until they were done. I went back with them, and of course I couldn't go in because the place that I was in was a house. It was actually a mansion. It was huge. But I had to wait outside for the staff member to come, and they're like, we do have beds available, but I'm not the one who says who can come and who can't. Here's a business card. Come back. Phone the number to come back. So I walked like a block and a half to some Chinese Catholic church. I didn't even know if these people knew if they could understand me, but I ran in there. I need a phone. I need help. I need to get into treatment. Please let me use your phone. And this one Chinese guy came out of like the church and gave me, well, he's like, what's the number? He dialed it, and they're like, yep, come in. We'll take you. So I don't even know if this is the proper protocol for how to normally get into a treatment center, but that's how I got in.
Wow. Amen. Thank God for them ladies that were out there. Thank God for everything that happened right there, huh? Wow.
I honestly feel God led me, like after Aaron died, and because literally I ended up on the streets. I didn't know all these homeless people. I didn't know anybody. All my friends dropped like flies. So I was on the street by myself using until I met up with some other guy, but that was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. But you know what? I was high, and yeah. But the way they work it there is it's originally a 90-day program. If you choose that you need to stay there longer, you can. So the first 60 days, the only way you really leave the house is with the senior of the house or staff member. Okay. So I do good for the first 60 days. And then, well, I'm allowed to have a visit outside. And well, I ended up using, and I knew if I came to the house, there's still a chance that they could test me. And I'm like, you know what? I still need help. I phoned them. I phoned the house and I told them I ended up using, and they kicked me out. I ended up on the streets again in a shelter. This time I got myself into a shelter. It was hell because I didn't know where the shelter was. I actually walked an hour in this city the wrong direction. So I threw a fit, and some guy pulled over. I'm like, can you call a cop? I just need a ride to the shelter. Because I phoned the shelter and I already had a spot, but I had to get there.
Oh, okay.
But how do you get there when you don't know where you are?
Yeah.
My brother ended up coming and visiting me, worried about me, brought me a backpack with like essentials, got me a winter coat, mitts, toques. Had a heart-to-heart talk. We hadn't talked for a long time, mind you, because my youngest children who are here now, their father also attacked my dad. Like, my dad almost died. He had a 30% chance of survival because he punched my dad and my dad flew back, and the back of my dad's head smashed the window in your stove.
Wow.
Which caused a blood clot. And ever since then, he hasn't been able to work and stuff. Like, he's actually been the largest victim service payout person in Canada, because normally they don't pay this much, but he got $50,000 from victim services, which I'm guessing my ex, because he also did this time when he hurt me. But they did it together. Like, they ran 2 years together instead of doing 2 years and then 2 years.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, my brother came and visited me. I'm like, I need to get myself from the treatment center. I can't lose Aaron's guitars. That's my boyfriend who died. I have his guitars. I still have them here. And we went there, and they actually invited my brother and his girlfriend in to show him the house and everything. And they ended up coming back out after showing my brother and inviting us all for supper.
Oh, okay.
And we had supper with the women there and the staff, and they told me if I could continue to stay sober in the shelter for 2 weeks, they'll let me come back. So that's what I did. I actually hung out with someone who I used to sell to, but he knew everything that I was going through. He knew Aaron. And I told him I don't want to use, and he kept everybody away from me.
Wow.
And his drug of choice wasn't my drug of choice, so it wasn't a trigger, thankfully, because it could have been. But
yeah,
it kind of heroin always scared me, so I didn't really dabble in that.
Okay.
And went back to the treatment center. I stayed there, doing my visits there with my children, doing the family court stuff that I had to do. I had to continue the medication I was prescribed, which had really bad side effects, but I just kind of stuck it out. The bipolar meds made me very anxious and anxious. I couldn't sit still. I'd rock and pace. My heart rate would, like, I was anxiety all day long. Finally, I got approved that my children could come back to me if I either moved to second stage housing or move in with a family member. So my auntie's like, you can come live with me, which was a safe place. So I did. At first, they gave me my youngest back first, and then a month later, my son came. The only reason why is they're like, we just paid for swimming lessons for your son. Do you want him to come now, or do you want him to have these lessons? I'm like, you know what? I think my son needs the swimming lessons. I know he's coming home. They're like, we will do 2 visits. We'll drive him the 4 hours to come see you, and we'll stay there. So I was able to see my son a couple times, but my auntie was in a house that was for sale, so we had to move. Well, we ended up in the country, in about a half an hour out of town. But I had to keep up with keeping my children in daycare, my son in school, so that other people are seeing my children, so that they can tell if anything's going funny or not, right? I had a supervision order, is what they call it in Canada with children's services. My auntie's vehicle became unreliable.
Oh no.
So I got stuck in a motel alongside the highway that was a 20-minute walk into town, alongside no sidewalk, with 2 children, 2 hyper children that are ADHD, in a 1-room motel.
Oh wow.
No park. And then I went to the laundry room, and my children got out of the thing, and someone called children's services. They came, and they're like, we think your children are going to be taken. I'm like, you put me in a shitty situation. You should have put me in a motel that was in town where I could get to the park. I'm not going to walk with my children alongside a highway where people are going 100 kilometers an hour. But I stuck it out. I kept telling them I needed to go back home. I needed to go back home. You see, I had other children in Alberta that I had left behind. My mom and dad were sober. They've been sober and clean through their own medical scare, and they just got sober, and they went to church. But yeah, I just kept fighting to come home, and they again said, well, you can't move to Alberta because they might reopen a file and take your children again, all over again, and you might have to start this process all over. But it didn't actually end up that way. When they were in the process of trying to get me moved, my grandmother passed away, my dad's mom, and I said, this is enough. I've been away from family too long. I've been too selfish. I need to get back home. My family stressed it to the workers. And finally they said, okay. And their stipulation was, again, that I had to move in with a family member. Well, I would have kind of had to, because moving, I was on income support and stuff. So made my way to Alberta because my children's grandmother owns her own house, and in the kindness of her heart said, yes, you and the children could come. She's a good Christian lady, who I think it also helped her in healing, because her son died, and at least she gets to be around her son's children. I stayed there. I finally got on disability here because it was a process, and started saving money, was doing good. I couldn't really attend meetings because I didn't have my own vehicle. My mother-in-law is into jamborees, and she's a senior, so she meets up with her friends, and so I had no access. So I just kept reading my big book, and I have some other AA literature that I read, and finally I just said I want to move back to where my parents and my other children live by the summertime. So I'm like, I need to start looking. So in May I went just after my birthday, actually. And I lost. You mean that?
Yeah, that happens now and then, right? I feel you. Everyone's fun. So in May, you went.
Yeah, but anyways, I started missing my mom and dad. My mom and dad picked me up, brought me, and I stayed in because that's why children's services wouldn't let me live with my parents. My parents live in a 2-bedroom apartment. Me, 2 small children in a small 2 tiny bedroom. They required my children to each have their own room, so it didn't work. But for visits, for overnights, it was okay.
Okay.
But I got there that evening. I looked in the paper for a suite in a 4-plex, and I couldn't believe the amount. Like, it's unheard of what I'm paying for a 3-bedroom. So I grabbed it. I ended up moving that same weekend with nothing. And me and my mom, like, I had enough money saved that I had the damage deposit paid, the rent paid. I was able, with my parents paying my parents back, I was able to get furniture and stuff and groceries. And so now I just do the mom thing. I stick around my parents and my kids and visit with you fine folks.
Wow. Well, that's an awesome ending to what a crazy wild ride. Wow. So do you attend meetings now at all, or are you just?
Well, Drew, you.
Oh, okay. Online.
I do have, like, I've done AA, like, it was a requirement. We actually had to go to 2 meetings a day for 7 days a week. If you didn't go to the second one on Sunday, you could go to church. They did allow that.
Oh, okay.
We had to do meditation for step 11, and I had to do the steps on my own, as well as a couple of guys who were in recovery for quite some time. I think they had about 5-6 years, and they did the steps with us fast. Like, I think I did the 12 steps in 2 weeks.
Oh, really? Wow.
But yeah, but it really freed me. Like that. Sure, that stuff still hurts me today, but I kind of look at it as well as Aaron wouldn't want me to continue being sad about what all happened. It's sad that he died, but I know he'd be happy for me today. He would see that I'm generally happy all day. There's a rare time I'm sad. Yeah, sure, I get sad. Sure stuff comes up. But when I'm struggling, which there's been a couple times I've struggled, like my other 2 children live in a town that's a half an hour away. He has custody, but I have visitation. Okay. So sometimes he withholds them. He knows that I won't go seek a lawyer because the legal aid lawyers out here you still have to pay for, and I'm on welfare. I can't afford it, but lately things are good. He's letting me see my kids, and I better plug my phone in.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're getting to see your kids, and things are, kind of settled out for you now a little bit. You got your own place.
Yeah. And a car, thanks to my parents. Like, I still have to pay that money back, but like it gives you lots of independence. Like, the only other car that I had for years was a drug dealer's car. Yeah, it was in my name, but he was paying it. So, like,
yeah. Well, it's nice to have stuff of your own, right?
Yeah. And legally.
Yeah. Yep, that's the big thing, being legit nowadays.
Yes.
Yeah, that is awesome. Wow, what a crazy story. Wow, that had a little bit of everything in it. Wow, you have overcome so much. You are such a warrior. This is like that blew me away. You had me on the edge of my seat over here through most of that story. Wow.
Yes.
And you did a really great job. You shared wonderfully. You told the whole thing, and you kept yourself together. Like, that's good. That's good. I always end up crying.
I think it's because it still hurts. Like, I still cry every once in a while, but that's when I'm listening to those sad, sappy songs.
That doesn't
Stop watching those sad, sappy songs.
Yeah, turn on that sad music, get those tears flowing sometimes. Sometimes it helps, though. Sometimes it helps.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on here tonight, Brandi. You got anything else you want to share with us or share with these guys?
Just, you guys, like, we're here to support one another. If you're struggling, reach out. That's all you got to do is reach out. There's someone in Facebook land that will take your call.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. There's always
and if
somebody
I can
out there.
get out of addiction and out of the crazy mess, you can too.
Definitely. Definitely. We do recover. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Brandi. Well, thank you. I'm going to let you go. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. No problem. We'll have you come back anytime. All right, dear. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Yep. Bye. Well, there you have it, guys. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Brandi Conklin, for coming on here and sharing your story. What an amazing story it was. Holy man. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. We had just a little bit of everything in there, but talk about going through some traumatic events and some tragedy that really, rock a person's life. And she held strong through all of that, and I mean, yeah, along the way, I mean, a person's story through addiction gets so twisted sometimes, but this story right here is a perfect example of why I started the Point of Change Meets. And that is this, every Sunday night, I like to have somebody come on here and share their story. And, you guys hear my story all the time. I'm up here every day talking and telling you little pieces of my story, little bits to get to know me. And that's great. A lot of people can relate to my story and they hear something and they're like, wow, that really, I can really agree with that, or I really relate to that thing. But my story only goes so far. So I really, at some point, I realized that I really wanted to branch out, not only for many reasons I wanted to start the Point of Change Meets, to give you guys many perspectives on addiction from my standpoint and other people's standpoint. Other people have different drugs of choice. Other people came from different backgrounds, So I like to have somebody on here that you might be able to relate to, and you can see that, yeah, Matt Jablonski made it out of meth addiction, but I'm not the only one, I mean, so many other people have made it out of so many different addictions, and you can too. Whatever you're struggling with, you can overcome it. You can ask me, you can ask anybody in this feed right here if you can overcome this stuff, and you bet you can. You can get through any of it. And, as we've seen in Brandi's story there, part of the definition of addiction is despite negative consequences, that we continue to use despite negative consequences. And you've seen that was very picturesque in Brandi's story of how many times that I thought, and I'm sure you guys were right on there with me, that we thought, wow, or, this is where she made it out. This is where it was over. And then right back in we go to another spiral of addiction. And then you got to another point where I was like, and that's where she made it out. That's where it all turned around. And then we found another spot where the use continued and where the addiction takes over again. So always stay on your toes, guys. Just because we got this today doesn't mean we got this tomorrow. I don't take any day for granted. The only day we can control is today. Just for today. Let's just stay clean today. Let's make it through one more day today. So guys, just keep pushing. Whatever you're going through, you can come back from anything in this world. I want to thank Brandi again for being here. Thank you to everybody who's become a supporter of the Point of Change recently. Shane Cease is my most recent supporter. He got his name and recovery date added to the banner behind me. If anybody else wants to become a supporter of the Point of Change, you go to patreon.com/thepointofchange. There's a link in the description of this video. Get yourself signed up, or if you'd like, you can support me in other ways. You can always throw up stars during the videos, or you can grab some merchandise. there's a link in the description over to that page as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us and being such an attentive, wonderful audience here and supporting Brandi and sharing her story. Make sure you share this video out too and give me some likes and loves if you didn't react yet. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central. Come on by. We'll have a great topic and we'll hang out for like an hour tomorrow. I got plenty of time tomorrow, so we'll hang out. All right, guys, I love you all. I will see you tomorrow morning. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay clean.